On today's episode, we'll ask the question, are realtors putting their sellers at risk by offering a buyer's agent commission? We'll talk about it. Hi guys, how you doing? This is Ben, the Real Estate Pro, coming at you, hopefully going to kick you some knowledge. So as many of you know, I have done a deep dive into these commission lawsuits all over the United States, the Sitzer Burnett trial, the No Select case up in the Northeast, and I'm really trying to get a grasp of what's going on, just to see what type of a future we have in real estate and how to adjust to that future in order to position ourselves for, for our clients, or how to position our company for the new climate in real estate. So one thing that I came across the other day, I came across a gentleman by the name, he's a fellow YouTuber by the name of John McConnon. And he had a video called Why Realtors Are Becoming a Huge Risk for Home Sellers. Now, all this time, I've been really looking at how this is affecting real estate agents, what these commission lawsuits and um, uh, what the injunctive relief in the Sitzer Burnett case, what that's going to look like coming here probably next month or in May, how that's going to be affecting real estate agents. But I hadn't given any thought, to be honest with you, and nor have I seen anybody else on YouTube even address this issue. But I mean, is there a risk for home sellers if they, decide to uh, offer a buyer's agent commission? I mean, that sounds kind of far-fetched, almost kind of crazy, but at the same time, it's a question that needs to be explored. So anyway, let's watch this video. He's got a YouTube channel. He's got several videos on there. I believe now he is a real estate broker and an attorney, a licensed attorney in the state of California. I know that he does business in Arizona as well, but he has some interesting comments here that I think every real estate agent should really consider. Now, keep in mind, we don't actually know exactly what the courts are going to order NAR to do, but I think it's safe to say that the DOJ pretty much wants to stop the practice of agent participation rule as far as commissions, or the sellers offering commissions to buyers agents, or what I should say is the listing agents offering compensation to the buyer's agent via the seller. But anyway, let's go ahead and watch. This is going to be kind of interesting, but let's go ahead.
The number one risk to home sellers going forward in 2024 and beyond are realtors. Now, why is that?
Did you hear what he just said? The number one risk for home sellers is realtors. Wow, interesting assertion. All right, let's keep watching.
Well, buyer's compensation has become a huge issue. I'm sure everyone, not everyone, but most people are aware that real estate agents have been sued and lost billions of dollars. The National Association of Realtors and Keller Williams were sued in Missouri, and they've been rung up by jurors for billions of dollars. RE/MAX and some other agents, brokerages, have agreed to settle for tens of millions of dollars. And the issue is
It's true.
that they were compensating buyer's agents, and the plaintiff's attorneys, and in this case it was sellers, thought that that was an unethical practice that made the price of homes go up. Now, after these massive settlements and lawsuits, copycat lawsuits have been filed all over the country, and some lawsuits in which the plaintiff's attorneys are representing buyers, also claiming it's wrong for sellers to compensate buyers. Now, that second issue and that second group is very interesting to me, but there's even one more interesting reason why it is, at this point in time, very risky for sellers themselves to offer compensation to buyer's agent. Now, as a background, there will be realtors giving you opinions about your risks of offering compensation to buyer's agents. If your realtor does that, that's not the realtor for you. That realtor is practicing law without a license, and they're ignorant of the real practice of law, completely ignorant.
Now that's something that unfortunately I have seen where real estate agents kind of overstep their bounds and start advising their clients as to the law. And that is not what we do. We list houses for sale and we find a buyer. That is basically it. Now we can't advise them about the sale, but not about the law. Okay? And even then you have to be really careful as to what it is that you're telling your clients. But he poses an interesting question here. It's like if you're talking to your clients about, you know, whether they're at risk um, of at risk of possibly being sued by the buyer because they're offering a compensation to the buyer's agent. The seller or the listing agent via the seller is offering compensation to the buyer's agent. We really shouldn't be advising them on that. That is a legal question, and really an attorney should be doing that. So anyway, let's go ahead and keep listening here.
Now, this is really a test for your lawyer. And here's the question.
Aha.
What happens after the sale of my home if I've offered compensation to buyer's agents? Am I at risk for lawsuits from disgruntled buyers? Now, is the answer yes or no? And how often does it happen? So let me just say, first of all, the answer is people are always at risk to lawsuits after their home is sold for multiple reasons. One of them is when the price of homes go down, buyers get upset and they want out and they want to rewrite the deals. They want to unwind the deals. They want compensation. And it's January 2024 right now. We saw articles that prices are soft, if not going down in Palm Springs. I've spoken with people in Arizona. Prices are going down there. Las Vegas, I'm hearing from in-laws the same thing. And it could be happening in other parts of California. So when prices go down, buyers want out. They talk to lawyers. I'm a lawyer and a realtor. I know this. I remember it. I still get calls. The other time you get calls is when people discover things about their property that they think should have been disclosed and no one disclosed to them.
And that's now I personally, knock on wood, thank goodness, I haven't had a situation where it became a legal issue, but that certainly does happen where a buyer does an inspection of the property and they find out things about the property um, during the sale, and then sometimes even after the sale they find out things about the property. Now whether the seller knew about them or not, that was the question. But I've certainly been in situations where a home buyer is a little disgruntled with the property because of things they found after the sale. So anyway, let's keep listening.
And that happened. You get calls as a real estate lawyer about that a lot. If you are up on the internet or you've done videos, people call frequently. And you have to tell them, yeah, we have to show, in general, if you want to prevail here, you'd have to show that the seller knew about it or that the realtor knew about it or should have known about it due to an inspection, and they would have seen it. And if they don't, it gets harder and harder. So you're like, I could work for you. I realize it's an interesting case when they have an interesting one, but we're going to have to spend time developing these facts, and then I'll give you my assessment about whether you should file. But I don't do these things on a contingency fee, so it will cost X dollars an hour, $20, 20 hours to get started, and then we'll go from there. That's usually enough for people to say, do you know anyone who do it as a contingency fee? Now, that whole calculus gets changed in this market because we've already seen that it could be considered unethical in some courts for sellers' agents to offer compensation to buyers' agents. Right? So right there, that's a theory of the case. Did you offer money to the buyer's agent? Should my buyer's agent have made sure we got a better inspection, done a better inspection? Should he or she have seen these defects when they did their walkthrough? Those are all new issues. Now, but this is the big one. We know that the plaintiff's class action lawyers, and we get the hint, I think I've gotten the flavor of this from reading articles, DOJ and others, but certainly the plaintiff's class action lawyers are saying they want to put a stop to the practice of offering compensation to buyer's agents.
And that is the crux of what the DOJ is saying, just like what John said. Um, I know Rob Hahn, notorious ROB, he pretty much says the same thing. That They just want, at the end of the day, what the DOJ seems to want is they want the buyers to pay their agent and the sellers to pay their agent. They don't want this participation rule to happen anymore. They see it as a, and these aren't my words, guys. Okay, don't throw rocks at me. They see it as steering. Okay, so if that is the case, and it's just little old me, and we're forced to adapt to these changes, which are each day are what seem to be increasingly more likely. We have to adapt and figure out exactly what we're going to do moving forward. Let's go ahead and keep listening for a couple more minutes.
So, if NAR wants to survive or CAR wants to survive, I realize they're in a really tough spot because they're supposed to be working on behalf of agents to get presumably more compensation and do a good job for home sellers. But they need to survive in these lawsuits and put an end to some of these lawsuits. So maybe they can put an end by working something out with the DOJ, then getting state courts and state legislatures in line. Like that has to be their big picture. So at some point they may say it's no longer ethical for realtors to offer compensation to buyer's agents, or that it never really was. And now all these sales that might close in 2024 might be subject to being unwound by buyers or subject to these class action suits until it's all settled out.
And that statement right there, I think, is probably the most profound of this entire video. Now, we've gone through a little under half of it. I encourage you to go to his YouTube channel and watch the rest of it, as well as the rest of his videos. He really deserves to have more subscribers and more likes to his page. He's a very intelligent guy, and I don't know him. I'm probably going to reach out to him, actually, and talk to him about this. But that's an interesting question. Question is, right now there isn't really a huge change. In other words, for most real estate agents, it's kind of business as usual. There hasn't been a change to how we do things right now. In other words, most agents are still going to their sellers and saying, hey, we're gonna, we charge 5%, 6%, and there's that participation where we are offering, the listing agent is offering a compensation to the buyer's agent. That's still going on right now because there really isn't anything that says we can't, number one. Number two, there really isn't any direction as to what we should be doing. So some real estate companies out there right now, some realtors, some brokers are kind of making changes as to what they think is going to happen, but we actually really don't know. I can make a pretty darn good guess, and others have done that, and others have made the changes. But for most agents out there, there really hasn't been any change to how business is done. So now the question is, if we're doing that, are we putting our sellers at risk? And if we are putting our sellers at risk, how do we address that? And here's the other question, and this is something John talks about, is how do we advise our clients about that risk? And what John's saying is we can't. We're not attorneys. We can't give legal advice. So what he's alluding to, and if you'll see in his other videos, is that you're going to, it's probably a good idea for you as a listing agent or as an agent or as a broker to get an attorney involved. Okay? To find an attorney. Now, John doesn't have that problem because he's an attorney, okay? So he can advise his clients, but what he's saying, what he says in his other videos, we may want to consider bringing an attorney on board, okay, at the expense of the agent or the broker is kind of how he's kind of his particular model, I should say, that he's talking about. That to bring an attorney aboard to be able to explain to the seller, hey, look, we can do business any one of these ways, but here are the risks. And an attorney, being that they're licensed to give legal advice, they can give that advice and advise your client. Now, what he's doing is he's going to kind of make that part of the listing package, meaning they're going to go list the property, and part of that is, hey, we have an attorney. They're going to advise you about, offering buyer's agent compensation and the risks that are involved. Okay? So that's what he's doing. I don't know of anybody else that's even talking about this, and they're probably not aware that there is a risk. And in my opinion, it's probably not a great risk, but at the same time, I would sure hate it if I were to, if for somehow, some way, if something were to affect me and something were to affect my seller, and it's something that I didn't even mention to them. I would feel very, very bad about that. Okay, especially since I have knowledge of these lawsuits. I mean, every agent should. And if I don't at least bring up that these lawsuits exist and that they should, if they have any legal questions as far as any type of liability that they may have, if I don't advise them that, hey, maybe you should talk to an attorney, or maybe better yet, like John's doing, provide one that could advise them. If I don't do something like that and something happens, as I get it, guys, as far-fetched as it may be, as some of you may even say that's just crazy, Ben. That'll never happen. Well, I never thought that we would be, when I heard about these commission lawsuits a couple of years ago, I never thought we would be in the situation we are now. Here we are. So that's the question. How are we going to address that? And I think that this is good food for thought. Certainly, like I said before, certainly not something I thought about. And I don't believe anybody else has really even talked about this. Is it possible that a buyer later on can bring suit, because of, something that happens, like you said, something that happens in the transaction, and pointing to this participation rule that we're using right now? Can they argue that we should have known better, and can they argue that we should have advised our clients to seek legal counsel? I mean, there's all kinds of ways that you can go with this. But I think that it's a valid conversation that we should have. And I certainly reached out to my legal counsel and asked them the question, and they're doing research now. And actually, they did kind of get back to me a little bit. They said that there's never any harm in disclosing any potential risks. Okay? Now, you certainly want to do it in a way that's not going to alarm your client, but you want to be honest. So anyways, guys, I thought this was really interesting because I haven't seen this angle. I haven't seen anybody talk about, at least not that I've seen. Maybe there are lawyers or real estate broker lawyers like John that talk about this, that maybe are putting videos out there that are addressing this issue. Now he's got a particular system that he's going to do moving forward to address this liability, this potential liability on the seller, and also himself, to make sure that he steers clear of any problems moving into the future, depending on what happens here in the near future. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I sincerely hope that you decide to at least make a phone call to any legal counsel that you may have, go over the specifics, the details of this conversation, and see if it's something that maybe you need to address moving forward. I know we've talked about possibly bringing an attorney aboard that's going to be part of our listing presentation, just to make sure that they've been properly advised. The costs for that, as I've seen, don't seem to be that great, because it doesn't seem, it's not going to take long for an attorney who's well versed and does the research on this. I don't think it'll take him very long to advise the client. But what it does is it kind of steers us clear of any liability, or reduces the chances, I should say, of any type of liability, because at least we would have disclosed to our seller, hey, these are some potential risks if we decide to go this route. Matter of fact, John says in his particular system that they're not going to be offering buyer's agent compensation at all, or at least not at first. Watch his videos. He'll explain it much better than I can. Certainly something that I'm going to think about possibly mirroring or doing something similar. But anyways, guys, this has been The Real Estate Pro. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.